happy Thursday. I am Libby. I am 26. I'm also 26 weeks pregnant. There is the baby bump. We are starting our third trimester today, I think, actually. So that's very exciting. And I have some nesting things that I need to take care of. And that is cleaning out all of our onions right here and going through all of my potatoes. So I have quite a good potato and onion harvest. I grew a lot because I use a lot of potatoes and onions. I cook with onions very frequently. And also knew that someone would go bad because we do not have a cold room. And so typically you'd want to store your potatoes in a cold room. I don't have that. And so some of mine have just gone bad. Same thing with my onions. I haven't had a good place to store them inside. And so some of them are just a little worse for the wear. So we're going to go through today, decide which ones are bad, and put the bad ones into the compost. And I'm actually going to chop up the onions that are still good and put them in freezer bags and put them in the freezer so that they'll stay good for the next couple months. And I can use them easily once the baby's here. They're already be chopped and I can just throw them into meals. So I'm gonna put you guys on time lapse. I hope you enjoy this time lapse of us going through the potatoes and the onions and figuring out what's good and what's bad. I'm probably just gonna have a couple buckets. For the potatoes, I will have 2 different buckets going, one for bad potatoes and one for green potatoes. And the green potatoes I'm actually gonna go ahead and plant into the garden and start the next round of potatoes. So let's get started. So it started off with a little lesson about showing William which ones are rotten and which ones are green and how to determine that. But once he had it figured out, he was working on potatoes while I was working on onions. It was really nice to multitask this. Definitely learned my lesson with these onions because many of them were rotten, were bad, and I'm going to do the things very differently next year, but hey, that's all part of the process and learning and figuring things out. I encourage you just to start, even if you don't know exactly how everything's going to go. Now I know next year that... All right, so I went through all of the onions. Most of them were rotten or rotting, so they're going in the compost. William also separated out these potatoes, and these are all of our good ones. Still lots of good ones left, so that's really exciting. I'm gonna try and incorporate those into more meals coming up so I can get through them. And then there were a couple green ones that I'm gonna go plant. And here were all the onions that I was able to save that are still good. And I'm gonna take these, chop them up, and freeze them. I'm also gonna try and go ahead and peel off the seeds off of these sunflowers. I will not try to save any of the onions in the garage. I will just chop them up and save them. But pulling off these sunflower seeds was so much fun. William had to get in it to enjoy. All right, just finished harvesting the sunflower seeds. Just those 3 heads gave me this whole bowl full. And I will use these primarily to supplement the chicken feed. That's pretty good. And I actually roasted them just in the sun. I let the heads sit out in the sun for a day, so that's why you see they're like really black. And there are a couple that are white and striped, which is what this variety normally is. But I just let the heads sit out and get like really roasted in the sun. And so they're roasted lightly. There are lots on the ground, but luckily we just out in the driveway. So William will just blow this off into the yard, and all of our wild birds will get to enjoy some too. But these I will save the chickens. Then William recruited me to help him finish up all the potatoes, which there were a lot more potatoes than onions, so that is fair. We finished going through all of those and leaving out only the good ones. And if anyone has any good potato recipe ideas, let me know, because clearly I have lots of potatoes to go through before we pull up our next round. But they are super delicious, so I'm happy to have them. All right, so we went through all the potatoes, and these are all the good ones here. We've got some that are a little bit rotten here that'll go in the compost, and these are all the green ones that I am going to plant. I probably won't plant all of these, but I'll save them to be seed potatoes for next season too. So that is all done. Then William blew out all of the mess that was in the garage where the potatoes were and onions were, and then blew the driveway off because we had gotten that a mess. We moved the potatoes back inside and I spread them back out. And then I got to chopping all the onions that I had saved. Nala was super interested in this. I don't know why. She cannot have onions. I've never given her onions. But I guess it's definitely very odoriferous. So she was interested. I was definitely crying by the end. This was a lot of onions to chop. I normally don't get bothered by onions, but this many really did me in. I have been loving having these already chopped onions this week so that I can just pull out of the fridge and toss into dishes. It's so convenient. All right, all of the onions are now chopped. I put them in these Ziploc bags. I'm gonna try and get as much air out as possible. And I did pretty small amounts, just like the amount that I would throw in with like a dish if I'm cooking it. I did save 2 Tupperwares full, just chopped fresh in the fridge, so I can use those this week as I'm cooking vegetables and stuff. And I have 3 that were really stable. I'll show you. These were still like had good shells on the outside and were still really good. So I'm leaving a couple of these on the counter so I can have a couple more dishes with fresh onions. And then I'll have these in the freezer with my frozen tomatoes that I can toss together. Probably I could do 1 bag of tomatoes, 1 bag of onions, and make like a little pasta sauce. And so these will be good for that, just like cooked down. Obviously they're not gonna like, they'll get like mushy, like they're not gonna look like onions. It's just really for the flavor. So they're good in like sauces and soups and that kind of thing. So I hope you enjoyed this little nesting type video. This is like my version of nesting, which involves getting all the food, all of the food that I've grown into a good, easy to use spot so that postpartum and when the baby comes, I can just throw some things from my freezer into a dish and it'll be healthy, good, organic, ready to go straight from the garden. So that's gonna be really nice. If you enjoyed this video and want more gardening and Mama Natural content, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe below, and I'll see you guys back here next week. Bye.